let's run into Conference USA. This is not going to be, like I said, too elongated, but we are going to start with, I believe, who wants to go first on the schedule? I think we had Jake up there. So,
Wait
Jake,
for it.
why don't you?
Dave?
Yeah,
Wait
Jake.
for it. Up.
What's going
I
on?
don't know. Was I the only one who froze there?
Yeah, you were the only
No.
one. That's why we're
Yeah,
kind of
that's
looking
why
at
I
you
was-
like,
really?
that's something
You're
I
exciting.
was like, what are we waiting for, man? All right, Wi-Fi, dial it in because it's conference preview time. But Jake, we are going to lead it off with you if your Wi-Fi lets us. Let's start with Kennesaw State and take us through the Owls and what we can expect from that team. Let's go.
Yeah, I would say the one thing that you need to know and that you could be familiar with is the coach leading the way. Brian Bohannon's his name. I was going to get into it before I got a little too eager. They're in a transition period right now. So what that means is they're kind of like weeding some guys off the roster. It got a little rough last year. They did not have an FCS win last year, just to be clear. They beat 3 Division II teams, but they did play Sam Houston State close, 24-21. So just to give you an idea, I don't think the floor is going to be super low with this team compared to the rest of kind of the bottom of the Conference USA, but they still have some work to do. Brian Bohannon's been around, I believe, for about a decade. He had 4 11-win seasons kind of before this transition period. Like I said, I think the one thing you want to know, the running back is back. That's their leading rusher. And it's more so going to be kind of a wait and see. They have a lot of returning starters, but at the same time, what does that mean when you only beat Division II teams last year? So I think you're going to learn more about it if you play CFB 25 than you do right now in June. That's going to be completely honest with this team. And I think in a lot of spots, they're probably power rated the worst team in the country. I would say maybe Kent State, maybe Kent State. Unfortunately, we don't get to see them play this year.
I didn't know that they only beat Division II teams. That's actually insane. I did not know that.
That's one way to find wins and one way to get 3 Division II teams on your schedule.
I was going to say, too, how long's Jacksonville State been around? That's kind of comparable.
What do you mean
Right.
been around?
Been around in the FBS.
2 years,
Mhm.
3 years.
And they won 9 games last year.
I believe
State started to turn it around at the end of the
Did they
year.
get? Is it a 2-year buffer when they jump
to make
up
a bowl
on the
game?
FCS? Yeah.
Yeah, it's 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they
Except
just finished
James Madison. They got the stamp of approval last year.
But Jacksonville State played in a bowl game last year too, I believe, from a waiver.
Yeah,
I'm not 100%
it's
sure, but I'm
all
pretty
a
sure
stupid rule, anyways. It's like
It's an
the
awful rule.
NCAA tournament.
It's like
when
saying,
a new
"Oh,
team
you're
jumps.
too good. We got to let these crap teams have a real shot at winning the conference you're going to run for the next 10 years." It's a joke. It's stupid.
Yep. I think that's good information on Kennesaw State. I also think I'm just realizing now all those people that plan to start their dynasty with them in college football 25 are maybe in for a longer road than they expected because they've made that game out to seem like it's going to be almost near impossible to be good your first year unless you're on freshman mode beating teams by 60. But
I think your goal is to just not get fired in the first 2 years. I think, not to be honest with you.
I got to imagine the job security there is pretty easy just to be successful, especially with them, including past history and only a Division II win on your schedule. Got to make you a one-star prestige program, I would assume. Yeah. But all right, that's Kennesaw State. Let's jump to Reese. Reese is going to take us through New Mexico State. Reese, tell us about this team in 2024.
Well, New Mexico State, everybody remembers last year the massive win they had on the road going to Auburn last year, and they went 7-1. But the big thing with them this year is you lose your quarterback to Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, and then you also lose your head coach, Jerry Kill, who I'm not sure why he left. I was trying to look up that up, boys. I'm not sure if you know why exactly, but he's just gone. So they're going to have
I honestly think he just wanted to get out. Like he's just kind of.
Because I saw they were looking to he's about to be like an off-field analyst for Vanderbilt or something like that too.
Yeah.
So I don't know what kind of situation was.
He's got some bad health issues. I know.
Yeah.
It was
the big one was he did not get along with the athletic department, and the athletic department did not love him. So
yeah, because you remember that.
What
was that thing that happened with New Mexico?
He threw
major
major shade at the athletic department after
the
way they handled the rivalry game and what they let them do and not do.
Because, so they let's give everybody a backtrack. They played in New Mexico for their bowl game at the University of New Mexico. And they handled it poorly because didn't a kid like pee on their practice field or something after when they played each other, and he barely handled it. And so that's
tough look there, Jerry. But either way, this school just went off back-to-back bowl seasons, which is the first time they've done that. They went to another bowl game in 2017, but before that, the last time they went to a bowl game was 1960. So we're on the up and up here for New Mexico State. But like I said, you lose your head coach, you lose your quarterback. The guy they're bringing in to expect to play, Deuce Hogan, I believe, former Kentucky and Iowa guy, if JP remembers that name. So they have an idea of who the guy is going to be. But like I said, still kind of early. Don't know what they're all going to be like. They can still be competitive. They really don't have that challenging of a schedule. The only like really difficult game they have outside of the conference, like they go to Kyle Stadium at the end of the year. But I think they'll be just fine this year. It just depends on what their head coach is all going to be about and if they have the guy at quarterback. So
yeah, right. I like that breakdown, Reese. I just add one thing because you're talking about quarterbacks because it's a weird situation. They lost 3 quarterbacks to the portal from last year's team. So like the guys even battling weren't there and a new coach. Right. It's just a weird situation in New Mexico State. Just a weird turnover year, right? You have one of the best years in program history and then you turn the page. Head coach leaves for probably get a little farther away, maybe relax a little bit more in his life. Quarterback leaves. He's in the SEC. Like the trenches are kind of okay, I guess. From what I was reading, like
they got an all-conference guy back, like so tackle or something.
They're gonna be able to block. Can you throw the football? Can you run the football? I am not 100% sure.
Yeah, it's also weird to see a team that Reese, you already mentioned that had a huge upset win at Auburn last year. Honestly, dominated that game, and then you look and going into 2024, now they're picked to finish on the bottom half of their conference. It's kind of shocking, honestly, but if you look at it, you have these kids transferring, you have coaches leaving for these bigger jobs because the game's changing so much that I think a lot of the schools we're going to cover tonight, they had really good players maybe leave that they're trying to replace with Power 4 guys that maybe didn't see the field enough. So it's kind of that ever-changing carousel that you're going to see a common theme of tonight. All right, to the next team. JP, you are taking us through UTEP, so go ahead.
Absolutely. Yep. Let me flip my page here. I got UTEP, the Miners, one of the notoriously harder jobs within the FBS to win at. That's just because where the school is located in El Paso, Texas. You have a little harder to get funds within that part. Something to look at with UTEP for this year, and maybe you're not paying attention to it as much. It's not on your radar, but this rebuild and this reset that they've kind of made with this new hire kind of gives me Texas State vibes with like GJ Kinney. I'm not saying they're going to be as good as GJ Kinney and Texas State were in year one with that program, but I do think that they're on the right track. I think they made an outside the box hire. They went a little younger. They're definitely sitting in a spot where they're confident, right? They brought in a lot of guys. I believe that number was around 40 some new.
11 from Austin P. Sorry.
Yeah. So
you're right. My bad.
You're on the right track. No, 11 from Austin P. Scotty Walden is the new head coach. He came in from Austin P. He brings some of his best playmakers at receiver and running back, at quarterback as well. But they brought in, I think, 47 new players all into one. This is going to be a team that really needs to find an identity. And you can do that with a young coach that is really not scared of the world, not scared of the college football world, not scared of the challenges that are laid out in front of you at UTEP. Like, this is a program that really wants to get off and going into the right direction. Another thing with this one, I just need to find something to make UTEP unique other than just the Sun Bowl. And it's in this weird place, El Paso. It's like across the street from Mexico, right? Just find an identity within all of that. I think 4 is the win total, right at 4. This is a team I could see if they hit the pieces and they find a way to really have fun and get into this program. It's a program I can see going bowling, right? Like, the schedule doesn't do them favors, like going to Nebraska, Colorado State's not an easier one. Tennessee, like there's 3 losses Liberty right too. There. Yep. Like there's 4 penciled in losses that I would pen these in. Sorry, not pencil these in. I would pen these in. Nebraska is going to be a loss at Liberty. Liberty's just another animal we'll get to later. At Tennessee, again, that's Tennessee. And then Colorado State's going to be improved. And I know that's a program Jake has some opinions about when we get to the Mountain West, but this is a team that I could see like being legit in the coming years, but just find your footing. Like, let's get rolling a little bit. So UTEP Miners right there. I think they're predicted in some spots like anywhere from 6 to 10 in conference. I could see them anywhere from 7 to 4. I'm gonna be honest with you, where Conference USA stands at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough team, and as you mentioned, they've opened with Nebraska, so I would to see the Miners in action in week 1, and I hope they're the worst team on the planet. If you're a UTEP fan and you're watching this, I hope they're just terrible because we haven't been 1-0 since 2019, so we need you to be bad. But all right, great preview there. Let's move on to the next team. We're moving fast, I know, but we have a lot of teams to cover in 2 conferences. I'm going to take it and go to FIU. Let's talk about this squad. I like to refer to them as the Tuesday or Thursday squad because I swear to God, they only play on weekdays. Friday nights, you turn on FIU's playing somebody meaningless, and you're like, oh my God, FIU is losing again. Now you can realize, looking deep into them, that they've been in the FBS since 2004, and now in their 20th season, they only have 4 winning seasons, and they've been to 5 bowl games in the history of their program. This is a school in Florida, people. Why are they not recruiting at a high level? Even if you get the 2nd or 3rd tier guys, you're talking about Florida talent. Granted, you have Miami, you have Florida, you have Florida State, but they didn't really have another good recruiting year under Mike McIntyre, who's a Miami native. I mean, I went back and I watched when they first hired McIntyre. The news was all over it. They were super excited. They have this guy coming home. Maybe this program can turn around and be something. However, we may say they're not a very good program. They did do a decent job in the transfer portal when it came to Power 4 guys. Let's take a look at 3 dudes they brought in. They went size. Let's start with a 6'6", 300-pound linebacker. Sorry, not a linebacker. Offensive tackle Jaleel Davis from NC State. Yeah, that would be. Meet him in the A gap, you'll die. He's a 3-star transfer from NC State. He's going to be making an immediate impact. 6'6", 300 pounds is nothing to blink at, especially if you're at FIU. He's going to be one of the bigger, heavier set linemen in that conference. A Maryland transfer in Jakavion Noner, 6'7", 285, another offensive tackle. They're really trying to revamp this offensive line for good reason, which we'll get into, but that's another 3-star transfer. And then Julian Lewis, who's a 6'1" receiver from Georgia Tech, another 3-star transfer. He could be a weapon on the outside they might use. Looking at their offense, they bring back Keon Jenkins at quarterback. He's got a year of experience under his belt now. He's very mobile, but he got rushed a lot last year. That offensive line was a massive issue. It was probably why he threw 11 interceptions, because he was consistently under pressure, but he also threw 11 touchdowns. So he had an even split. You did lose your top receiver in Chris Mitchell. He transferred to Notre Dame. So here's a perfect example of a good player from the G5 transferring into
and he's
not even a Power 4, but a bigger school.
He could be like the number 2 receiver for Notre Dame, maybe number 1. He's going to be really good, I think.
Yeah. And they lost out, and that was their top target for obvious reasons. But in the backfield, this is the bright spot. They do have Shamari Lawrence and K'Jon Owens, both returning guys with a lot of experience, and they're probably one of the deeper backfields within the conference just with those 2 guys alone. And then the size to that offensive line that I already mentioned, they need to perform, because that's the only way this team's going to find success, is that offensive line can get a clue, because that was 90% of their issues last year. Going to their defense, the biggest issue for this team was also on the defensive line. They didn't apply any pressure. They had the fewest sacks within the conference. They bring in edge rusher Eddie Walls. He's going to be a stud. That's kind of their, I don't want to say risk, but their move to become a better team. And I just can't wrap my head around FIU with the Miami Knights, with everything going around that program, not being, I don't know, somewhat more competitive. But Eddie Walls, I already mentioned, he posted 45 tackles last year and 14 and a half tackles for loss. He comes in from Bethune-Cookman. So he's still taking a step up when it comes to competition. But with stats like that, you've got to think he'll still compete within the Conference USA conference. So I think that's good for them on the defensive side of the ball. Overall, looking at their schedule, they go to a new coach in Indiana, in Signetti, to open the year. You got to think they're going to start 0-1, because I think Indiana's too skilled at the skill positions to where FIU won't be able to keep up within their first game. You go through those, everybody has the first game where you're not going to look like you are in week 12. And I'm going to take Signetti and what he built and existing Indiana athletes over FIU all day. However, going back to McIntyre, my last point, this is a guy that ripped out 10-win seasons at San Jose State and Colorado. So you got to think at some point he's going to be able to put it together. And it's probably a 5% chance, but this could be the year. And a successful year at FIU, I just told you, is 8 wins, 7 wins, 8 wins. You'll be a hero in their eyes. So all in all, I think on FIU this year, you're looking at 7-5, 6-6. You'll get bowl eligible, but it's just not there. We haven't seen it yet, and I don't think we'll see it this year. Any other things on FIU that I miss?
I just think 6 wins is generous. I don't know.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know. Indiana's the only. I think they start 1 and 2.
Their schedule is manageable. Yeah, their schedule is manageable. Getting Central Michigan at home is nice, but I mean, they didn't do much in the portal. And I don't know, like, you guys ever look at Bill Connolly's SP Plus? I do once in a while for whatever it is, and they're in the 120th in returning production. So I don't know. I just think that quarterback's. I don't know.
I honestly think the production that they lost, though, outside of obviously the wide receiver to Notre Dame, I do think they brought in like good athletes. Like the size matters. They can teach the talent he can develop because he's been at so many places. McIntyre, that is. That I think that they can get to 6 wins. I mean, I have the key wins marked down as La Tech would be a key win, Kennesaw State at the end of the year, and UTEP.
Like you can't lose the must wins, wins.
Monmouth. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't drop one of those. But knowing Florida, you turn on FIU. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, did it feel like they played on a Friday night every game last year?
Conference USA does Wednesday night games in October now on CBS.
I know,
Sports
but how many did FIU get picked for last year? I feel like every week I was taking their uniform out that early because they would drop it on a Monday. They're like, we play Friday. So I call them Tuesday U. It's like the MAC team of
Miami Vice uniforms are all time. Those things are sweet. I love them.
I'm sure they'll whip them out this year. That's about all they got going at that program, I realized. But all right, let's move on to the next one. I believe we are going back to the top, and let's talk a little Western Kentucky. Jake, take us through it.
Yeah, we're kind of covering some of the top early. If we're not talking Liberty, Western Kentucky's the team in this conference. I really think that losing their quarterback last year, but they plug and play a guy I think everybody's familiar with, TJ Finley, will be stepping in at quarterback. Former LSU, Auburn, and Texas State transfer. Did you guys know he's a junior? He is a junior. He's got
6th year, isn't he? Is he 5th year junior?
I don't know. I mean, didn't he play?
Give him another year. He's fine.
2 years at LSU, I thought. A year at Auburn.
Got to get his doctorate.
Alan Bowman level there.
Yeah, but he threw for 3,400 yards at Texas State last year. He was a good quarterback for GJ Kinney. GJ Kinney also got a really good replacement that we'll mention eventually. They let Western Kentucky rank 15th in passing offense last year, so I think Finley's going to fit in right away. The receivers, production-wise, not necessarily there, but I think he's going to be able to throw it around no matter who's out there. It's just like it comes down to defense. Like I think that's the biggest difference between them and Liberty this year. Can they get stops and can they compete on defense? If they can, I think they can give Liberty a run for their money. I don't think Liberty is like the world beaters compared to Conference USA. So we'll have to wait and see.
All right. There is Western Kentucky. Did you guys see just quickly the big red logo they released for basketball? This is obviously a different page, but did you see that?
I think so.
But they're gonna wear they're gonna abuse that because that makes them blow up as a program. Is the big red helmets. Great logo, so I don't blame them. But all right, moving down the list. Let's go to Sam Houston State. Reese has taken us through them.
Sam Houston State Bearcats with a K, in case you can't spell correctly, people.
With a K.
But last year they went 2-6 last year in conference. And this is their 2nd season in the Conference USA. And this is their head coach Casey Keeler's 11th season there. I didn't realize that, but the guy's been there a while. And last year was his first losing season with the program. They're originally in FCS up until 2020. Or 2022, they were in the Southland until 20, and then WAC until 22. But looking to kind of build off all that last year, they're going to be replacing their quarterback they had last year. Schedule isn't all that promising. Not sure how great they're going to be in conference. I don't see them making many strides or much improvements. But then there's just a fun fact about them. You can tell they were at FCS a couple years ago because they have just not improved that stadium since. I think it rivals Morningside for how that place looks. So
I don't think they've touched on that stadium since the 60s, let alone.
No, I don't think so. It rivals Morningside, man. Like it just has the one
tiny.
side.
Their orange,
Just look it up.
their orange doesn't look great when it's faded either. And when it's
No.
on turf that's been beaten down by the sun and kind of beat up a little bit, it looks a little off for sure.
They actually kind of turned it around last year, winning I think 3 of the last 4. But listen to this: they started off, offense is obviously the issue with them. They scored in their first 3 games 0, 3, and then 7. They didn't play Alabama. I mean, they played BYU, Air Force, and Houston, but they didn't play an SEC school or like a Big Ten school at that matter. So we'll see if they can get better on offense.
Maybe getting a new quarterback's good for him.
Yeah.
Here's a question. I'm wondering, I don't know. I haven't looked into it. They go play UCF week 2, which is obviously a loss. But UCF joining the Big 12 last year, do they cut checks to Sam Houston State? I mean, we just talked about all the renovations they need. Does UCF now as like a brand new Power 4 school, they have to cut a check just like Georgia would, like probably $1.5 million or something like that?
Oh yeah.
There's a buy game in there for sure.
It's got to be that one, right? Because that on paper is probably going to be a beat down, knowing what Sam Houston State looked like last year. But all right, I didn't know if they were cutting checks the same amount as like Georgia or Nebraska would be.
Everybody's different. It kind of depends on the programs involved in it, because
I don't hate it. Sam Houston needs it.
FCS schools.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's true. But Sam Houston needs it. So hopefully UCF's cutting him a check. But all right, moving down the list. That was a good one, Reese. Thank you. We are going to Jacksonville State. JP has taken us through it. JP, go ahead.
How about a Rich Rod team that was one of the more fun ones to watch in the conference last year in their first edition? They go 9-4 last year. Their current win total sits at 8. One thing to pay attention to Jacksonville State is just the run game. Man, it's fun to watch. This is one of those teams that you tune in and you watch kind of what they can do. Logan Smothers was one of the 2 guys they used last year. They'll actually switch over the quarterback role in some spots.
Nebraska transfer.
Going back from Smothers and the new kid. It'll be a lot of what you saw last year in a heavy run set, but it's going to have one of the best run games in the country, even just pure yardage based, what they're able to do. Replacing Malik Jackson is not going to be the easiest thing to do in the world. I mean, the guy was an absolute workhorse. He got the majority of the carries for the running backs. It's going to be more by committee in the backfield, that is, but it doesn't mean it's going to be any less potent. Just the scheme itself really opens things up. They're going to have a really good offensive line. They're going to be solid on defense. This was Conference USA's best defense a year ago statistically, and they returned 4 of them. 4 of their best players from that team last year. A new coordinator kind of wrinkles things up, but it's not going to be an overhaul. He's not going to completely change the system. He's going to let his guys work. This is a team that could legitimately fight for a spot in the Conference USA title, but it's also in a spot where it needs to get a little more explosive, and they can't make as many mistakes. This isn't necessarily a team that doesn't beat themselves, but they have put themselves in weird spots on the back end of the defense. If you watch their bowl game a season ago when they played Louisiana, not a bad team, but going to overtime, they kind of had that game in the bag, and Louisiana kind of crept back into it late. Jacksonville State, for me, when I think this program and where it could be, is top level of Conference USA.
Yeah.
Just what
They're
they've
dark
done
horse
at
for
the
sure.
FCS level, what they've done in the first couple of years of being FBS, and what they continue to do and how they've built it. It's kind of it's foolproof almost. Like, you're not going to get a weird year out of them with only 3 or 4 or 5 wins. I think you'll be in the 6 to 8, 9 consistently, especially in a conference like this. If you can get your footing, you'll solidify yourself in the top 4 of the conference pretty quick. So this is one to pay attention to. It's a ground game to pay attention to. It's a good defense. That's not a very big theme with Conference USA is good defenses, but this is one of them that you can kind of say this is a better defense than what you're usually getting on Saturdays out of this conference, or Wednesdays or Fridays, whatever day of the week they're playing.
Listen, I say, listen to while you were talking, JP, I was pulling up their transfers that they're bringing in. Corner from Minnesota, a running back from Georgia, a receiver from Clemson, a linebacker from Ole Miss, and then a quarterback from UConn that was pretty solid for him last year. So I don't know, some guys that I think could replace some production, and I feel like you were right. They can step right into 8 wins or be a dark horse in this conference.
Yeah. It's a weird system. Yeah, I don't love a lot of the 2 quarterback systems, but this one worked for him last year really well. The Webb kid that was there last year was more of like a burly kid, threw the ball a little bit better than Smothers, used him in those situations. But then they bring in the Turner kid, like you're saying, from UConn, who won 6 games at UConn, and he kind of just fills that spot. They're obviously confident in Smothers. He's probably going to be 1A to 1B. And so just watch for this team because again, like they're going to sit at the top of the conference. I think top 4 easily, but it's just one. Who are they going to get? They'll sneak up on somebody when they're not expecting it. I'm looking at Louisville, Coastal to start the year 2 in a row.
Well, and how do they get at Liberty and at Western Kentucky? I mean, we got it.
Anybody that
unfortunate fellas.
Liberty has to be worried about, I think Liberty gets at home.
Yeah, except
it's ridiculous.
Do they go to App State? We'll cover that.
But I'm saying like
in conference. Yes. Yep. They're trying to get this team in. They are trying to get into the playoff hardcore.
JP, you got to see Logan Smothers firsthand actually 2 years ago, Nebraska, Iowa. Nebraska starts Logan Smothers. Adrian Martinez decided not to play in that game due to injury or whatever. He already hit the portal, but he's a running quarterback. He can throw the ball. He's not very consistent throwing the ball, but that run game is going to be electric. So I think Logan Smothers is a player to watch for this squad. And that was a good preview there. All right. Going back up to Jake, depending upon the split for this one, we are going to cover La Tech, which we all have a little bit of homerism for La Tech. So Jake, take us through the dogs.
I know we got a little bit of homerism, but I'm going to rain on our parade. And this will be probably as quick as Sonny Cumbie's tenure at Louisiana Tech. I think he's got, 3 straight 3-win seasons, definitely back-to-back 3-win seasons. If he doesn't I'm setting the number at 5 or 6, probably 6. If he doesn't get to 6 wins, I don't think he'll have a job. Only 2 returning starters on offense. They got I think it's the Turner kid that's coming back to play quarterback for him. No, Hank Bachmeier's not back. He transferred to Wake Forest. And then they're changing coordinators. They bring in Jeremiah Johnson, a defensive coordinator at Northern Iowa. He was there for a while. I think he's pretty highly regarded because he needs to be a miracle worker because they ranked very bottom in yards on defense just nationally. I think they were in the bottom 110, 120. So they lose. I don't know if you guys remember Smoke Harris. He was a big playmaker. I don't think they return like any of their skill guys, their running backs, their receivers. But they have familiar face at quarterback. We'll just kind of have to wait and see. But it starts with what Johnson can do on defense for them, because if they can't stop, a nosebleed, they're done. They'll have another 3-win season on hand.
Yeah, I got to see that team firsthand last year. Not very good, but Smoke Harris, you mentioned him, dude. He was a pretty good player. Like that, he was a lot of their production. I mean, just a small little dude, but man, he made a lot of plays for La Tech, and I can't believe they only ended up with 3 wins last year. That was honestly news to me when you just said that. I think you're right. I mean, looking at it says right here, 2 years at that school, he's 6-18 in those 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he can't do another 3-9 season, and I think that's kind of where they're projected right now is 3-9, 4-8.
That's a program that lost its footing quick after some changes. It used to be second, third best program in Louisiana, and it's hard to say it's the top 4 program in Louisiana at this point in time, right? Like it's one that had a backing. They were getting attendance, but like think about it though. Like
it's not Louisiana.
They were winning
bad though,
but they were winning 9-10 games, 8-10. Wins a year.
Yes,
fighting for conference titles
with Holtz. Yes,
and now we're sitting in a situation where we're talking they can't go beat Middle Tennessee on the road, or they can't go. You know what I mean? Like that's a problem for this program.
What is the deal? So we've been down there. We drove it. We realized how close. What is it? It's like literally 15 miles. I think it's east.
15 miles on I-35, because that was the rivalry game I built, was the I-35 battle.
And it's like, how do you guys not with the budgets you have? No offense to these athletic programs, how are you not playing each other every year and saving money? Plus, they're the same skill level at this point.
Yeah, that would be a fun one.
It would be.
I don't know. I don't know the reasoning behind that.
I don't know.
There's got to be something behind it. It's like, how are you? I don't know. Just don't know how we're not setting this up.
Anything to get local support would probably be a good idea down there.
Very good. Hit the drive-through margaritas down in Ruston. Maybe stop for some seafood. We went to a seafood buffet down there. Fire. Yeah, there you go. Ponchatoula's great call. I mean,
I got a question. This is spontaneous, but we might need to do a little ad break for just a second. I got a text from a friend who goes, What code do I need to use on those hats? He must be, I don't know if he's watching. He kind of
What a
sees
good.
those.
Who
Is there a code you can use?
Yeah, there is a code. It's just the acronym PTFS for free shipping on shopnorivals.com. We posted the picture of the hats soon to be released earlier. Clean black hat with the script. Check out our friends at No Rivals. They're good people. They're good quality hats. Unmatched comfort, unrivaled style. That's No Rivals. Use code PTFS for free shipping. What's your reasoning when you online shop to not order something? You put it in the cart. You're like, oh, that total's not so bad. Oh, the shipping's $8.99. I just can't justify that. Now we got it for free for you. So you have absolutely no reason to not put it in your cart and just buy the damn thing. PTFS, text them back. That's another one.
I got 'em.
And then tag us when it comes in, just so we know you got it. And plus, we like to see cool hats in person.
It's golf
Absolutely.
season. Get yourself some new hats, boys.
That's
They
facts.
got the golf. What is it,
Exactly.
the four
fairway.
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 Thank you.
Jake, you
Fairway.
would know what a fairway
Fairway?
is.
Yeah, I don't either.
Whoa.
Whoa, dude. Calm
Golf
down.
slander on the football podcast.
Hey man,
Yep.
you brought it up.
All right, going back to football, but shout out to our friends at No Rivals. Check them out today. They're awesome, and show us what you got when it gets there.
We
All right,
love you.
going back to Conference USA, we only have a couple teams left, and both of them are scheduled for JP. JP, first talk about Middle Tennessee State University and what they're going to look like in 2024.
Yeah, Middle Tennessee is going to look a bit different this year. This is the first time they haven't had Rick Stockstill at the helm. I mean, what was that, 20-some years the guy was there? Felt like just forever. They definitely needed a refresh. They needed to get some new ideas within the building. This is a team that was used to winning and having good seasons. Then they got to right before COVID and then post-COVID. If you remember, I believe the O'Hara kid, or O'Hara, I can't remember his name. He was a quarterback there for a while for 1920. Struggled a little bit. Those are some of the lowest times in this program's recent history. 4-8 a season ago. Current win total sitting right at 5. I am not sure what to think about this team right now. I think it's going to need more than just one off season to kind of get it rolling. You're going to look at this team and you're going to be like, what's the identity now? Like, they're not going to play slower. They're not going to have this old school kind of offensive tempo. They're not going to be kind of stuck in the mud and throwing rocks at each other. They might still have a good run game, but it's going to be modernized a little bit. The Vitalo, I tried to like pronounce this name along with the video. It's still, I butchered it. Nick Vadiato. Yeah, Nick Vadiato, their quarterback. He's a solid quarterback. He is one that you're going to want to have around. And it's nice to have a guy who started a lot of the games last year. But when you look at what he's doing, he's going to need some help. The supporting cast isn't quite there for them at this moment in time. They're going to really need the tight end room to be better. They're going to need the defense to be a lot better after this massive turnover that they had after this offseason. Can you get guys in the room at receiver, at tight end, at running back to really help the offense get going? Again, it's not an easy schedule by any means. I mean, you go to Ole Miss, you got Duke on the schedule. You have to play. You get Liberty at home, I guess. That's cool.
You missed one. Memphis. Dude, whoever is scheduling games, if you look at the first two last year, Mizzou and Alabama, and now this year they add Memphis in there as an easier game. Whoever is scheduling games there is choosing violence.
Yeah, it's definitely a team that is trying to make some money, keep the program running as they should. You know, go get your bye games in, do your thing. But Derek Mason being the head coach here is probably going to try and make this a defensive-minded school, and I'm not opposed to that. It's just we need Derek Mason to understand the offense has got to run too. Like, this has got to work. His years at Vanderbilt, they were all right. He was a defensive coordinator at Oklahoma State right after Jim Knowles. He only lasted a year there and took a year off, and then he's right back into it. So I'm sure he's refreshed, ready to make this program good, but it's going to take a little more time to develop that defensive identity. That's why I'm thinking the offense needs to be what carries this team in 2024.
All right. That was a great one. Let's move on to probably one of the main ones that everybody wants to hear. This is in a ton of people's predictions for the 12-team playoff, the group of 5 bid for that 12-team playoff, and that is Liberty. Liberty was a good team last year, went undefeated, got the bid to the Fiesta Bowl, got obliterated by Oregon. And now we need to talk about what their outlook is in 2024. JP is heading this one again. Hopefully I gave him enough time to flip over his notes. Let's go.
This is a program that you're looking at and you're saying, do they even fit Conference USA anymore? I'm sure when they join the conference, you're expecting a lot of these schools to stick around within the conference. A lot of them have left that have been the top end of this conference to really fight with them. This is a program that has way more resources, a lot more money, a lot more support, and just a lot more going on around it than a lot of these other CUSA teams. I would say Western and maybe Middle are the ones you can argue with. Maybe once Jacksonville State or Kennesaw get going, maybe they get a little bigger fan base to run with them. But there's just the money and the ability to go get players in the portal to make a place attractive just lives at Liberty. So Salter's back. That's going to be a name you're going to hear a ton of. If people want to talk Liberty, they're going to bring up Caden Salter, a guy who threw for over 2,000, ran for over 1,000. It's a good football team. I'm not going to tell you that they're not a good football team. What I'm telling you is that they could cruise. They don't play, or they play one Power 4 school. And I believe that is they play one school outside of like the Sun Belt and Conference USA, and that would be
Campbell,
East Carolina. East Carolina. Your
and Campbell.
Yeah, well, I'm not counting Campbell. That's like not a good East Carolina. So you're not really even getting a good team there. This is a team that's going to have a strength of schedule about 132nd. That's damn near last. If in case you were wondering,
sub spots.
It's too high end of a program to be in Conference USA, but I think they're just going to continue to take these wins at these conference titles. This is by far your pick to win the conference. The Cooley kid at running back's very good. It's just this isn't a bad defense by any stretch, but they definitely need to get better if they're going to battle with anybody in the American and the Sun Belt. I think if they're going to go and make a playoff run, you have to win at App State. That's the one game you get to prove yourself and your worth. And if you get in a dogfight with them, which probably will happen, I assume that'll be a close game. If you get a dogfight with them and you win 35-32, that's not really telling the committee, know, even if you're 12-0 or 13-0, like these American teams that we'll get to and these Mountain West teams are going to be better and a little more seasoned when the time comes around. So Liberty, here's my go play some people, figure it out a little bit, and really just start shoring things up, because Jamie Chadwell is a hell of a coach, and I can't imagine he'll be there forever.
Yeah, and this is one of those products that with their schedule the way it is, it kind of raises their own concerns in the committee's eyes, the public eyes. Like, I don't think there was an argument to be heard last year when people were like, oh, I don't know if Liberty should get that bid. I don't know. And they're undefeated. Like, that shouldn't be a question, but your scheduling is so easy. Right. See, there's a perfect example. The guy who just previewed the team for you and I know follows them pretty closely just said they shouldn't have got that bid. I feel like this could be a similar story towards the end of this year with the schedule in front of us. It looks like Reese is in a fight down there with the dog, Michael Vick style. Let's go to Jake first to wrap this conference up. We're just going to main points. Let's start with your conference title game and then tell us your champion.
Yeah, it'll probably be chalk on the next conference we preview, but you got to go chalk here. I feel like I know Jacksonville State's got a decent shot at being a dark horse, but it's Liberty and Western Kentucky for me. And right now, they lost some guys in the portal. Liberty did, especially on defense, but they also kind of backfilled with some talent at the P4 level. I think they're gonna, keep taking another step. I still don't think they're better than a Mountain West team or an American team. But right now, I'm going to trust that they're better than Western Kentucky. So give me Liberty to win this conference.
I have the same thing. I just think you're a year away from Jacksonville State. I think middle could get there again, but I'm not really on board with that yet. So I'll take chalk as well. I also have Liberty winning it.
I have the exact same thing. Hopefully we're not all on chalk, but I have the exact same thing. I just don't think Jacksonville State can bounce back from starting 0-2. I don't know if they beat Coastal. I mean, that's an experienced team. That would be that's probably their best chance to win those first two. Then they go play a Jeff Brom squad at Louisville on the road, and that's just, you got to chalk that one up as an L. So it's really how they answer that bell at the beginning of the year to see if they really have a chance late in the year, because I don't see Liberty losing a game. So I think they win the conference as well. Reese.
Don't worry, I'll spice it up for us, fellas, so we're not all chalk here. Give me, let's go Western Kentucky, and let's go with Jacksonville State.
I think you're just picking them.
Let's
Oh,
have
they're not even
TJ
making
Finley.
the
Yeah, well, I
conference
mean, I
title.
had chalk, but like, who wants to listen to four guys say the exact same thing?
Fair enough.
Let's have Schaefer have TJ Finley be the best quarterback in this conference and come make a statement and go win himself some football games and go win a conference title. How about that?
All right, there it is. Here's a conference title pick and prediction for the teams. Let's go into players to know. They could have been a player you named within your preview, but Jake, give us a player that you're probably going to hear about throughout the year from Conference USA.
I mean, it gets pretty basic when you think of this conference. I mean, you're not going to be blown away by a ton of names. If you had to look at somebody, I think is Willis, the tight end at Mid Tennessee State. But when you think of Conference USA, you're going to think of Caden Salter, and TJ Finley's going to make a name in his conference as well. So,
yeah, I like how you took 3 of the 4 names. That way nobody else could get one.
Well, I figured I was like, well, is everybody else?
There's not a ton. No, there's not a ton on there, but I was going to talk Finley a little bit.
That's what I was going to do too. But
just
yeah,
guy
throw that in there and take it from us.
All you, JP, you can elaborate
I'm just saying,
on it if you want.
you're going to watch a guy go into a high flying offense. He's shown he can do. Helton at Western Kentucky likes to sling it around a little bit. Look what Reed's done there recent years, as well as Zappy. They're just going to sling it around the yard. Now, does he have the same talented receivers that those guys had? Maybe not the high-end guys, but I think the bulk of his receiving core is a lot better. So he'll be towards the top of the charts.
Here's a
I would
fun
agree
fact for you. There's no there's just no big time receivers in this conference. So the leading receiver from
Fair enough.
going into Conference USA is actually coming over from Alabama State. He's going to be helping out TJ Finley at Western Kentucky, and that's Keeson Johnson. So just like nobody last year that's coming back had more than 750 yards catching. Just not a lot of offensive production.
I want to talk on Finley for pretty much the same reasons, but I just don't think – I think you're going to hear so much about Salter throughout the year. You're going to hear, Liberty's still winning. They're undefeated. They're going to get the bid. Salter's the main reason. He's what that offense runs through. But then you have a record-setting TJ Finley coming from Texas State who threw for over 3,400 yards there on the opposite side in Western Kentucky. Like, I think he could be the star of the show, Conference Player of the Year. I mean, you're looking at Salter thinking, all right, this guy's already played in a New Year's Six Bowl. Like he's the name to follow in Conference USA. I think Finley could steal the show. So that's why I think he's your number one player to watch throughout the year. Reese.
Can I
go ahead, JP?
Go ahead, JP.
No, I was going to say, can I say my prediction first? Because I like to talk about it because I think it'll have some legs.
Okay.
Reese, go ahead.
Go ahead, Judd.
Yeah. My prediction? You want my prediction? In the next 3 to 4 years, the 3 or 4 teams that are moving from FCS to FBS. So I'm including Delaware in this. Your Sam Houston State, your Jacksonville State, and Missouri State. Those teams are going to solidify themselves as the top 5 every single year in this conference within those first 4 or 5 years. That's how
Liberty.
I see it.
Big jump.
Okay.
Now Liberty will stay up there. I'm saying these teams will pass. They're going to pass your Middle Tennessees. They're going to pass your FIUs. They're going to pass your Louisiana Techs. They're going to solidify right in the middle to the top end of that conference. I just think they're coming in with maybe a little more juice, a little more fired up to be a part of the conference and be in the FBS. A couple of them can recruit a little bit better than what we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see UTEP get legs like I talked about in my preview, but I think those teams are just going to be a little more ready to roll. And in a conference outside the top 1 or maybe 2, it's wide open to place anywhere in the conference each year. So those are ones to pay attention to.
Jose, I hate to admit it, but I think Liberty will be in the American Conference in probably 4 years, and this will just be a glorified FCS conference.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like these FCS schools are going to come in and they're going to run the conference.
Right. It's kind of like the
tough.
Big 12 being a G5 now. Just the conferences are ever changing. All right, let's go down to Reese. Reese, give us your player to watch to wrap up Conference USA. This will be the end of it.
I didn't say his name before because I was trying to save him before this, but Jace Bauer is looking like he's going to be the new quarterback at Sam Houston State. Fun fact, actually from Ankeny, Iowa, coming down from Central Michigan, Chippewas. So, and like I said before, Casey Keeley, it's his 11th season at the helm. Last year was his first losing season. I don't know. That guy sounds like he knows how to win. So if he can bounce back, maybe he's going to be with a new quarterback and maybe get themselves in the win column this year too. So,
all right, there it is. There's Conference USA.